Hi everyone, we are trying to be back again and trying to connect things up. But what we're gonna do is again restart on the aspect of the profile of the organization, where we are coming from and where we are headed to. I will have to do this so that everyone can try and follow this. What we are saying is we are in 1893 in Toga's Human Rights Restoration Movement, and obviously we are a human rights organization. We are not a political organization, so we are trying by all means to focus on the human rights issues in Matabeleland, and of course, if other human rights abuses are happening elsewhere in the world, we focus on that. This is our agenda. Now, in terms of the the history of the organization, most of you would be probably aware that the platform upon which this organization started was from umtogazireview.com, and then from there we had members across disciplines and across a number of countries who came in and then became part of this and then decided that we needed such an organization. And then this culminated into the formation of the organization on the 13th of November 2016. And primarily we are saying anyone who is a Mtogazian or who is a Matebele is more than welcome to join the organization. Our focus is definitely on human rights, and that's the perimeter in which we operate. There has been a number of activities that we've been involved in. We've been involved in, for example, the fencing of Gadade as part of our agenda. Gadade, as you know, this past week, we declared November actually as a history month for Matavele, and I think that was last year, because Gadade is where the final Berkeley, one of the Berkeleys that led to the final destruction of the Matavele nation. And we have that monument, but it's never been sort of fenced and some effort to protect it. So we felt as an organization we needed to do that. So that's one of the things that we've done. We focus on some human rights abuses in terms of other activists being arrested and trying to get in there and make an effort to get them out of the prisons and stuff like that. So that's been an ongoing program, as well as highlighting any arrests or any abuses that seem to be happening in Matavele. Having said that, I think our latest program has been focused on the water shortages in Matavele and specifically Bulawayo because of the drought. So we've been trying our best to try and get in there, help a couple of people, where thousands of people, to try and get some water to them. Yes, we are experiencing a severe drought, and we hope soon, hopefully, the rain is going to come, and then that's going to alleviate things for our people. But we have a long-term program or agenda to try and build some permanent water solutions. I know some people have been saying, why should we have Isboran, a town? But if that can bring water to people, and then that's better than nothing. So unfortunately, I'm unable at the present moment to connect Manala and Greater Spanda to come in and share their bits with yourselves. But I believe we can have a discussion. If people have got any comments or anything below, they can put those comments and then we can discuss. But the whole agenda is that we're going to be doing this as a continuous program on weekends to try and engage as much as possible many people so that we can know what the organization is about, what does it stands for, and also highlight a number of high profiles, be it music, be it historians, be it anything to do with our rights. You know, we've got a right to music, we've got a right to education, we've got a right to business, all those things. So we need to highlight these things and really get involved and make sure everyone is involved. But basically, from 2016, having moved from different stages of the organic development of the organization, we felt last year we needed to create some special days for Matabeleland, special days that are historical. And so we came up with a calendar, and that calendar does give some special days that Matabeleland has, so that our people can focus on these and rediscover themselves. We need to live our history as a people, but also use our history for our progress as a people. And that's why on the 25th of October, we had a lecture from Dr. Ngwenya on the Shangani battle. So there are two battles that the Matabele fought in 1893. So there is the Shangani battle, which was the first battle that was led by, I think, Major Forbes, which was the first battle around Shangani there, as they were encroaching Matabeleland and coming to occupy Matabeleland. So that was a significant battle, which happened on the 25th of October. So Dr. Ngwenya did provide us a very, very, very interesting lecture the other week, very sound lecture. And also the lecture was about, sort of pushing the boundaries in terms of thinking of who we are, where we have come from as a nation, and what we've stood for. So our values and beliefs, and indeed fighting colonization and occupation. And it was an exciting and insightful lecture. So this week, obviously, from the beginning of the 1st of November, this is where, again, Forbes came down from Shangani right up to Kadate to launch the final sort of war against our nation. I think this culminated in the raising of the flag. I think either it was the 4th or 5th of November when they really destroyed our nation. So this is an important month. November is a very important month. The movement views this month as a really historical month because it is about our defiance. It is about us fighting against colonialism, against subjugation, and all the ills of imperialism. So this is what we are. Forbes and his guys did fall in Kadate, and most of our people shed blood there. So it was a historic moment. But the most important thing that we find is, or that we are saying, is that our people are a bit silent on these historical aspects of our nation. That's why we've decided to resuscitate this agenda, this historical agenda. This is why the 1893 is named 1893 Mtokazi Human Rights Restoration Movement. So that was not by default, it was by design that we named the movement the 1893 Mtokazi Human Rights Restoration Movement, because the agenda has been to focus our people's agenda on who we are, where things started, or where things began to where we are now, or where we lost a plot and where we need to rediscover ourselves. So 1893 has been a significant year for us, and that's why we have the 1893 Matabeleland Human Rights Restoration Movement, or Matabeleland or Mtokazi Human Rights Restoration Movement. So the Shangani Berkeley and the Katade Berkeleys are very significant. Now, in majority of cases, is that people tend to think more or acknowledge more the Shangani Patrol Berkeley, which happened, I think it started on the 3rd of December to the 4th of December. So that's the second Shangani Berkeley. This is when Forbes and his, mercenaries that fought their way up to Mbembensi from the first Berkeley of Shangani on the 25th of October. And then they came on the 1st of November, launched their aggression against our nation, and eventually, Lobengla destroyed his kraal and everything and set foot back to Shangani, And I think they had sort of planned that he was going to probably go towards Botswana and stuff like that. But I think he had got the information well in advance that there were others approaching, from the Bechuanaland force approaching from the Botswana area. And therefore, he wasn't going to be led down that route to go towards those guys. So he made a really spectacular turnaround and went back towards Shangani. And then that's when they then followed him and pursued him and made a hot pursuit. And then that culminated in the Shangani Patrol Berkeley, led by Alan Wilson, Major Wilson. That Berkeley, I think, started on the 3rd of December, roughly up to the 4th of December. And we know that, it was a tough Berkeley, and it's one of the most renowned Berkeleys because loads of those patrol people were massacred in that Berkeley. So the whole agenda is that, we need to revisit our history, know who we are, be proud of our history, acknowledge it, celebrate it, and, be ourselves as a nation and as a people, and not be afraid to be who we are, and not accept that our history be undermined and sort of be buried down. So we hope to bring this once we've sorted ourselves out in terms of how we're going to continue with this program and how we sort this program out. We are hoping for a lecture, I think from Dr. Spindi, on the 5th of December, to talk about the Shangani Patrol and give us some insights into that. We will try and sort out our bit about engaging our fellows, Vodloza and Ayanda Manala, to see how we can connect them. But for today, this is just an introduction of who we are as an organization, what we aim to do, We are also hot on the aspect of the genocide that happened in Matabeleland. We feel we've got to pursue this issue. We do not agree with the aspect that the Matabeleland chiefs have agreed to, and we do acknowledge that the chiefs are under a lot of oppression and intimidation, and therefore they've had to go along with this excavation of the graves in Matabeleland. But our position is very clear that a perpetrator cannot lead the process of truth, justice, and reparations for Matabeleland. That can never happen. So what is happening now is a situation where the perpetrators are engaged in a program to undermine, compromise, and try and erase the evidence of their criminality. So we do not agree to what has been agreed, the disturbance on the graves and stuff like that. So our position is very clear that this needs a neutral player, an independent facilitator to these things. The United Nations, the human rights arm of the United Nations would be a most important part for us to get things that are fair, for us to access truth, for us to access justice, for us to access reparations. So what is happening now is basically a whitewash. And as the 1893 Mtokazi Human Rights Restoration Movement, we are not in a position to agree to what is happening at the moment. So our campaign remains a focus on getting an independent facilitator so that we can access truth, justice, and reparations for our people. So that's our position, and we're not shaking from that position. We do not agree to the position where the so-called Matabeleland Collective has agreed to. We think that's a manipulation of issues, and we think that's an agenda to destroy evidence. And we understand there are some chiefs there who may wish not to be part of this, but they operate under a system where there's a gross intimidation, and therefore they've got to watch their backs. And we believe that there are some chiefs who do not agree to that position. So we are not going to roundly condemn them and say, why are you doing this? But we understand. But even though what they're doing, we know is not right, it's not just. But we are of the opinion that, the fight is on. We need to continue as Matabeleland people to be on the path to access truth, justice, and reparations for the genocide. I mean, the issue of Matabeleland is a very dynamic one. And if we look at it and assess it and look at the consequences of things that have happened from the Liberation War. So Matabeleland never had any peace. Just from the Liberation War, then we had the genocide, which took roughly about 7 years just from the Liberation War. So Matabeleland hasn't had an opportunity to build from the Liberation War. And therefore it has suffered immensely in terms of human capital, in terms of economics, in terms of cultural aspects, in terms of education, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of development. And therefore, our argument does not support this idea that everyone is saying that in Zimbabwe, everyone are the same and people are suffering the same. There is a difference in terms of people from up north who have suffered, economic demise of the state, and then from there started protesting. I mean, we understand that. We don't condemn that. And we understand whatever human rights abuses are there, and we condemn all those human rights abuses. But also, what people should not do is to equalize the unequals. So basically, Mashonaland and Matabeleland are very unequal in terms of their suffering. From the Liberation War right up to the genocide, for about 10 years or so, there was relatively peace in Mashonaland until the economic decline. But there wasn't any peace in Matabeleland. So, there was decimation of a human capital, people being killed, people being massacred, people being raped, people disappearing. And therefore, it's illogical for anyone to argue that, today we are sort of on the same wavelength of suffering. That does not make sense. So, therefore, our argument is Matabeleland and Mashonaland should be treated as unequals. We are not equal in terms of our suffering. There is no logical point to treat unequals equally. Yeah. So that's a philosophical aspect. So if people are unequal, you cannot treat them equally. So unequals need to be treated unequally. So you can't treat unequals equally, but you can treat unequals unequally. So basically, you've got to appreciate the differences. That, there is a special case in Matabeleland. So many people have suffered, and there's a lot of suffering there, right from the Liberation War up to, 1987, and, women being raped, people being beaten up, people being killed, in several numbers. We don't know what's the actual number actually of that, because people who are accused of this are in power. Therefore, you cannot get a sort of appropriate figure, a fair and just figure on that. So this is what we are on about. But also we believe that our people have got a right to their culture, to exercise their culture. They've got a right to their languages. They need to be appreciated for who they are. Different languages, actually, in Matabeleland, be it Kalanga, be it Nambia, be it Tonga, be it Venda, be it Tswana, be it Soto. Everyone has got a right to their language, and no one should superimpose themselves on them. So this is what we believe in. But also we've got a belief that people have got a right to land. Our territory has got our land, we've got our minerals, we've got all these things. And local people have got a right to that land, have got a right to minerals, have got a right to work locally, and a right to decide and have power to decide who gets what. It should not be others deciding for the people of Matabeleland what they should get and what they should not get. Neither, it's not about the people of Matabeleland alone, it's also about people from other areas. Therefore, they've got a right to decide who gets what in those local areas. And that right is sacred, and everyone should respect that right. So we believe firmly in fighting for the rights of the people of Matabeleland. And also there's an acknowledgement that the the human rights of the people of Matabeleland tend to be kind of like play second fiddle to human rights elsewhere. So we want to bring this to the fore, bring it to to the front, so that people are able to focus on their rights and live their rights and be able to fight for their rights. It does not make sense for someone to come from somewhere else to sweep the local streets or anything, or to clean up the toilets, or in the shops, to work in those local shops. There are so many people in Matabeleland who can do that, those kind of jobs. We believe it is only in a case where, if there is a skill shortage, then that's when the people of Matabeleland should have power to then decide on who needs to come in and fill those positions, or where there are shortages of skills. So this is, in a nutshell, what the 1893 towards human rights restoration is about. But also we believe in the right to business. Our people should be able to get into groups, and participate in business opportunities, and empower themselves and empower local communities. So this is the agenda of the 1893. So in short, that's what we are all about. But we will be, in terms of history, a right to our history. Like I said before, we've declared November as a history month for Matabeleland, and we hope to be getting Dr. Spindi to give us a lecture on that. And then we will be rolling this every now and then when these special days come. Thank you very much. So I thought I should give you that brief. Unfortunately, we couldn't get our panelists to come in and make some discussions as we had envisaged, but we'll work on that and try and improve on that. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.